name is Lisa Hugo, and I'm obsessed with helping other people find and develop their voices so they can go out and take on the world, be seen as an authority, expert, and speak their truth with utmost confidence because they know that what they have to share will connect with their audience and make a difference. I studied performing arts and spent 20 years of my career traveling the world as a professional singer-songwriter. I teach you the secrets to speak up and be heard, overcome your fears, to build your speaking skills, and learn how you can use your skills to make a change both in your own life and the lives of others. This is your one-stop shop for all things confident speaking. This is Impact Through Voice. Well, hey there, and welcome back to the Impact Through Voice podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hugo, and today I want to dive straight in and give you 10 public speaking skills that you can master right now, and you can use them to accelerate your career or your entrepreneurial success. First, does this sound like you? You know that presentations are important for your career, but standing up in front of a crowd, it makes you sweat, it makes your heart race, it makes you feel extremely uncomfortable. Well, don't worry, because I can guarantee you are not alone with these sensations. So today, I want to give you these 10 skills that you can use right now to improve your public speaking skills. I'm going to be covering how to use your voice, your body language, how to structure your speech so you can keep your audience engaged. I'll also talk about how to prepare, what to wear, and solid breathing exercises to keep you calm, along with some other really great tips. So I can guarantee that if you work on these skills, then you're going to be taken more seriously, you're going to become more visible, and this is going to accelerate your career and your success in absolutely no time. All right, so let's dive in. Point number 1. I'm going to talk here about structuring your speech because we have to have somewhere to start, right? And a strong structure is really the foundation for an impactful speech. You don't want to just go out and start rambling and not really know exactly what you're going to talk about and the direction that you're going to take. So structure is incredibly important. And some of the people who I've worked with in my programs, they have said, wow, I never really realized how important this structure is. And I thought people were just naturally gifted and they could just go out and deliver a speech without all that much preparation. But preparation is key. Now, I teach the EIEI formula, and that means we break down your speech into 4 key areas. That's to engage, inform, educate, and then inspire. And this is a formula that you can use for a 5-minute talk, a 15-minute talk, a 50-minute talk, or even for a 1-minute social post or social reel. Now, I talk about this formula in depth in a previous podcast episode. That's episode number 9. So if you want to go and have a listen to that, I'm going to put the link to that episode in the show notes because it's really insightful. And I even give away a free guide to help you to master this formula and put it into practice. The first thing you're going to do is you start with an introduction. This is going to grab the attention of your listeners and also give them a bit of a preview of what's to come. This is what I call the engage component of the EIEI formula. It could be a story, it could be a fun fact, it could be a surprising, startling fact, or it could be a question which gets them thinking. Once you've done that, then you're going to move into the inform section. And this is where you highlight the key benefit of what you're going to share. Why should they listen to you? What's your audience going to take away from listening to your talk? And remember, the attention spans of listeners, of anybody nowadays, is incredibly short. It's 2024, and that means that we are all glued to our devices, we're glued to our screens, and we're also very used to just swiping things away which don't interest us. So that means that you really have only a few seconds to grab the attention of your listeners. And you have to do this in this first section of the engage and inform part of your talk. Otherwise, you will have lost them. The next thing you're going to do is organize your key points into a logical sequence. So as an example, you could outline the history of the topic that you're talking about, and then you could move on to the current situation, the current status, and then you could move on to here's our future plan to reach our goals. And when you do this, you want to really call out the points very clearly and differentiate between each section or each point that you're sharing. So that could look like this. Well, first of all, I want to share some background information. And then you share that information. Let's talk about how things are running right now. So that's that middle section. Then you pause and you share that information, and then you pause again, and then you move on to the wrap up. Now, looking forward, we're planning to do X, Y, Z. Right? So you really want to differentiate between each point. You could even call it step number 1, we're going to do this. Step number 2, we'll do this. And step number 3. And when you call out these points, you're keeping a very clear structure and you're making it easier for the listeners to follow the points that you're sharing and not get lost in a ramble. Now that is the education section of your EIEI formula. It's the second E. The last thing you want to do is to inspire them. Leave them with something memorable. This could be a wrap up of your key points. It could be another very inspiring quote or a story that encapsulates your message, or it could be a question that's going to leave them inspired to go and take an action. So remember, you have to think, what do you want the people to do with the information that you've shared? Now, always remember, you're there to give information so that the audience can then take that and use it. And if you follow this formula, then guaranteed you'll have the audience in the palm of your hand and they'll be ready to take an action. Let's move on to point number 2. Now, I'm guessing you might be thinking, Lisa, that's all great. Thank you so much. That's a great structure. But how do I keep myself calm so I can deliver a strong message? Well, the next topic is breath control. And the breath, the way you use your breath, is the foundation for all good speaking. I can't emphasize that enough. Breathing reduces stress. It improves your muscle function, and that includes your cognitive function. It increases the oxygen levels in your blood, and it's also the foundation of a strong and resilient voice. So don't ever underestimate the power of your breath. When we get nervous, what happens is your breathing gets faster and accelerates, and it also gets more shallow. So when I'm working with people, I put a lot of emphasis into learning how to use diaphragmatic breathing, learning how to incorporate breathing into your speaking so it becomes natural and it becomes instinctive. When you do need to be in control, when you're in a moment where you're getting nervous and you can feel your breath is starting to get shallow, that's the fight or flight situation. If you can manage to get your breath into a good place, into a deep place, then that's going to stop these moments from getting in the way and becoming something negative, which will, negatively impact your whole presentation. But you can be in control by managing your breath. So let me give you some tips on how to diaphragmatic breathe. I want you to sit upright, or stand is even better, shoulders back, and take a deep breath through the nose initially into your belly. And I say into your belly because I really do mean that. I want your belly to expand on the intake and to contract on the exhale. And when you breathe out, really narrow down the space to breathe through as if you're going to blow through a straw. So you breathe in to your belly and breathe out through your mouth, but as if you're shaping it through a straw. You can actually physically get a straw and blow through a straw, and that's a great way to accentuate the amount of pressure that you need to get through that straw. So what that will do is it will build stronger muscles, and it will help to also build that muscle memory for you. So that's just a really great way just to get in touch with the breath. Another way, if you struggle to get the breath into the belly, is to don't take a breath at all, but just breathe out. And then what you should find is your core engages intensely Once you've felt that, then you just relax the core muscles again, and squeeze again. And your body is naturally now getting your breath right down deep. It's very, very powerful. If you keep practicing this, then it's going to become second nature for you. And then you're going to be in a situation that you can draw on it anytime. Whether you're on stage, whether you're in a meeting, when you're about to go on stage, take some deep breaths like this. And it's going to really boost your confidence from the inside out. It's also going to help you to come across as being more poised and more confident. And that's going to instill more trust into your audience. And they'll think you're worth listening to when you appear to be confident and in control. Diaphragmatic breathing is a skill which is not just beneficial for your public speaking, but it's also beneficial in all parts of your life. If you implement this into your life, it will help to reduce your stress levels. It can help to improve your focus and your concentration. And it's beneficial also for your physical and your mental health. So it's worth it to take some time to make this kind of breathing your habit. It's really a gift that you can give yourself that will last you, not just for today, but for a lifetime. So breathing is going to help you to keep calm physically. But how do you get over that feeling of everybody staring at me? Well, that's tip number 3. And I'm going to say this because it's very important. And I'll say it more than once for sure. Remember, you're speaking. It's not about you. It's about the message that you have to share. I'll say it again. It's not about you. It's about what you have to share with your audience. So when you're delivering a presentation, it's really easy to feel self-conscious and to worry about what people are thinking about you. But the truth is, the audience isn't really thinking like that. They're sitting there thinking, I hope I get value from this. They're there for the message that you have to share. They're not judging you. So make sure that you put the focus in to that message that you have to share and make sure that your audience comes away having learned something, having received something from you. So always ask yourself, what does the audience want to gain from this? Or what do I want my audience to take away from this talk? How are you going to teach it, inspire it, or entertain them with your message? Focus on crafting a message that really offers value to your listeners. And if you do that, they'll appreciate you all the more. We're up to tip number 4. And that's all about making eye contact with your audience. It's not always the case that you can see your audience, but let's talk about if you can see your audience. They're out there, the lights are not so dimmed or the lights are high enough that you can see them and you can see their faces. In these instances, I want you to make eye contact with people. And I don't mean stare somebody down. You find one person and you just stare them down for the entire presentation. No, you want to span the room and pick out a few people that you can make eye contact with. Now, they're going to be so far away that, yes, they'll feel like you're talking to them, but so will the people next to them and the people behind them and the people in front of them. And they're also going to feel that. And that's really going to help to make that connection with your listeners and make them feel like they're part of your message, part of your presentation. Now, there's going to be times also when you can't see your audience because you've got bright lights shining on you. And if you're lucky, you might be able to see the first or the second row. If you can see the first or second row, then do the same thing. Then pick out a few people that you can speak to. And what will happen then is the people behind will still feel that same reaction that you're talking to them. If you can't see anybody, then you've got to put on your performing skills and just imagine that you're on a stage and you have a message to deliver and you need to perform it. You need to act it out and know that there is an audience behind those lights and you still connect with them the same way. Point number 5. This is probably something that I feel like I shouldn't have to say, but I do because we've all seen presentations and experienced presentations where we are sitting in the audience and we're trying so hard to understand what they're saying, but it's really difficult because they might speak so fast that you can't keep up, or maybe they mumble and they speak through a closed mouth, or maybe they have a really strong accent that limits you from understanding what they're saying. It's just too strong and you're tuning in your ears, but you just don't get it, or you only get every second word. If you are one of these people who speaks too fast, or you mumble, or you have a strong accent, or something is interfering with your ability to be understood, then you need to work on it. For example, if you're a mumbler, then the problem with mumbling is that you're speaking through a closed mouth and you're also speaking very wide. And that means that all the sound is getting stuck inside your mouth and it's not being projected out to your listeners. So in those instances, we need to, instead of talking wide, you need to drop your jaw and speak long. So more with a rounded mouth. And that is going to help with enunciation. It's going to be clearer for your audience. And it's also going to make your voice sound more interesting, richer, and fuller. If you are somebody who just speaks too fast, then speak with more purpose, more intent, and slow down. And don't be afraid to pause and then continue. If you have a strong accent, then it could be that you need to refine that accent so that it's more accessible to everybody. It's different if you're speaking in your hometown and everybody there speaks with the same accent, and of course they can understand you. But when you move away from your home environment to international realms especially, not everyone's going to be able to understand your accent. So you need to learn to soften it down, slow down, and enunciate more clearly, the same as what I said for speaking too fast or being a mumbler. So I am Australian, but I don't really have an Australian accent. And this is something that I have worked on and refined because I've lived outside of Australia for more than half my life now. So I've adapted also because people would say, I don't understand you, can you repeat yourself? Because my accent was unique and strong. But now I've refined it down and you don't really hear very often, maybe occasional words, that I sound Australian. But I can guarantee you when I get back home and I'm hanging out with my family and my friends for a period of time, the Aussie accent definitely does start to come back. I'm going to move on to tip number 6, and that's all about mastering your voice. This is probably the tip that I'm most passionate about, and I think it's probably the most important tip as well for you to master if you really want to stand out in the crowd. Your voice has incredible power, but I would guarantee that 70% of my listeners are not using their voice to their fullest potential. Now, if you can learn to play with your voice, to build a strong, rich, and resonant voice, you're going to come across as being more confident and more captivating. So here's how you can do that. The first one is I'm going back to breathing. Learn to speak using your diaphragm. Your voice is a wind instrument. It needs air to create sound. So if you're breathing shallow, your voice will sound weak. If I breathe shallow, I can't get strength into my voice. And just because your vocal cords are positioned in the throat doesn't mean that we speak from the throat. You hear a lot of people, they speak with a very edgy voice and they're almost holding their breath and speaking in the throat and pushing onto their vocal cords. And it's tight and it's tense. And if your throat sounds throaty, and if you get tension and tightness in your throat, and if you feel uncomfortable when you speak, it means that you're speaking from the wrong place and you need to reassess and learn to get your breath deeper, use the strength coming from your core and not coming from your throat. And that will alleviate the tension in your throat and allow your vocal cords to just vibrate freely and then move that sound from there up into your resonant spaces. I could go in deeper and then out to your audience. The monotone voice. We've all heard the speakers that speak only on one level. They're not interesting. They're very boring. And when you're very boring, your audience is going to lose interest. So if this is you, you need to learn to put more melody into your voice. You need to vary your pace, change your volume levels up and down, and add more energy into your voice when you speak. Now, we learn to speak by mimicking. So if we learn to speak by mimicking, then go out and find some really captivating speakers and study them. What is it that makes them captivating? Listen to them and then try to imitate what they are using in their voice. How much melody do they use? How strong is their voice? Do they pace? Do they use different volume levels? Do they take pauses? When you do this, it's going to help. And pausing is not just going to help you to keep your thoughts clear. It's going to help your listeners to just take a break and absorb what you've shared. It's going to help with your structure as well. So really working on how you speak is one of the quickest ways to accelerate your success. We're getting there. Tip number 7. Our visual profile is going to influence how our listeners will perceive us. So what do I mean by our visual profile? Well, I'm talking about our body language, our gestures, the way that we move, our facial expressions, and even how we style ourselves or how we dress. People will perceive us based on what they see. And if they see something which doesn't look confident, then they're not going to have confidence in you. So we're going to start with how should you stand? So you want to stand up is best, but even if you're sitting, pull your shoulders back, open up your chest, and maintain eye contact, because that confident body stance is going to give the impression that you are self-assured and that you are a persuasive speaker. What do you do with your hands? I get asked this all the time. Lisa, what do I do with my hands? And it's a simple answer. If you naturally speak with your hands, then use your hands when you're up on stage or in front of an audience, because that's what you naturally do. If you don't use your hands much, then it's going to be unnatural for you to suddenly start using your hands and make them big movements. It won't feel comfortable. So stick true to the way that you normally speak in conversations. Now, having said that, what usually happens when people go out onto a stage in front of an audience, they start to do things which are unnatural because they suddenly feel uncomfortable, and all of a sudden, what do I do with my hands? And they start doing really weird things, moving them, rolling them, and what happens then is the audience gets distracted from your message. They're looking so much at what you're doing with their hands that they can't focus on what you have to say. So be mindful of how you use your gestures. Having said keep it conversational, but you do need to be mindful of how you use your hands. Keep it simple and to the point. Don't use too many hand gestures. Use your hands to emphasize a point. And another tip is to keep your fingers together, because when we have sprayed fingers, then it doesn't look as strong and confident. So keep your fingers together and then make your gestures and your movements. Another thing is, the bigger the stage, the bigger the movements. The smaller the stage, and when you're just in front of the camera, keep your gestures small. Practice in front of a mirror or in front of a camera. Practice, then review, and then refine. And then practice, and then review, and then refine. And keep that going until you think you've got it. We're always in practice mode. If you have the chance to move on the stage, then move with intention. Now I'm going to talk about the points of stage. And this is relevant whether you're on a big stage, whether you're on a small space, or even whether you're seated in a chair in front of a small audience. There are 4 points of stage. We have center stage, we have stage right, we have stage left, and we have another down stage center where you can lean in and you can go closer to your audience. So how do you use that? Generally, if you're speaking on a stage, you'll be coming out and you'll be center stage. You start from there. You speak for a while from here, speaking to the center of your audience. Then you can move across, move with intention. And when you get to stage right, then you're going to stand with your feet below your hips in a strong body stance. And then you'll speak to your audience. Don't lean on one leg. Don't fidget. Don't pace. Don't wobble from back and forth from one leg to the other. Have a strong stance. Stay there. Speak to your audience on that side. And then when you're ready, you can move right across if you want to stage left and do the same thing there. You can stop in the middle on your way through as well. And then you can come back to stage center. Again, deliver some more of your speech from stage center. And then when you have something intimate that you want to share, you can lean into your audience and you can share that, and it makes a closer connection. You can use exactly this technique even if you're in a boardroom and you're seated on a chair or in a small room. You just don't move with your body, you just move with your eye contact. So you can slightly shift and pivot to work to this side of the room. You can pivot to work to this side of the room, and you can pivot to work to the center. And you can even lean in a little bit, which will give you a closer connection with your audience. Let's move on to tip number 8. What to wear. This is often something which is overlooked or not given enough attention. Now, I'm no fashion stylist, but that's not the point that I want to make here. I want to make sure that when you go out in front of an audience, you feel comfortable in what you're wearing. If you're not comfortable in what you're wearing in your clothes, then you're going to feel uncomfortable in every other aspect of your talk because you're going to feel self-conscious. What you wear is either going to make you shine and feel, I feel amazing in this outfit, or it's going to do the opposite and it's going to make you self-conscious, as I said. This doesn't mean that I want you to go out and just wear your sweatpants on the stage. That's not what I'm talking about. Super comfort. Of course not. You need to dress to the environment that you are speaking in. Make sure you wear comfortable shoes. And this is mostly for you ladies, because we'll have a tendency to want to dress for fashion, but fashion is not always comfortable. And when you're out in front of an audience, if your shoes are not comfortable, if they're too tight, if they're too small, if they're brand new, or if your heel is too high and you just don't feel comfortable, you can't stand there with ease and confidence, then wear something else. It's not always about fashion, but in these cases, especially if you need to walk a stage, you need to be in a shoe which is going to be comfortable. Did you know that there are specific colors or patterns that you should avoid when you're on stage? Well, there are. And there are also equally important colors that you can wear which will enhance your professionalism and your connection with your audience. So let's talk about what not to wear. And that's anything which has got a strong pattern, or a t-shirt which has got a strong imprint or message on the front, which can distract from you and your message. People are trying to read what's on your shirt, or a logo, and they're forgetting about what you have to say. So it distracts. Don't wear anything which is distracting. Now, there are power colors that you can wear. These are known and proven to make better connections with your audience and also present you in a confident light. These colors are black, white, red, pink, blue, and yellow. I might have left one out. I don't think so. I think that's it. So I'll say it again. Black, white, red, pink, blue, and yellow. Now notice that green is not on that list and brown is not on that list. So they're two colors that you really want to avoid because they don't show up very well on stage and under lights. Number 9. There are many more points that I could share with you, but I'm keeping it to 10. So number 9 is the importance of storytelling. Facts tell, but stories sell. If you listen to compelling speakers, the underlying core message will be stories. Great speakers use stories to reinforce their message because stories are relatable. Stories make complex topics easier to understand. Stories connect with an audience on an emotional level. And stories are more entertaining than your regular facts and figures. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this topic because I actually did an entire podcast on storytelling, and that's episode 6. If you want to go and have a listen, I also give a free guide for that episode as well, which will help you to craft your stories. I'm going to put the link into the show notes again below. So if you want to go and check out that episode, check the show notes. Remember this, when you're telling your stories, don't just tell the story, live the story. Play it out as it happened. So when you're speaking it, have it like a movie going in your mind. Use imagery to set the scene. Use your voice to play with emotions and depict the characters and the different characters in your story. Use body language to make the scene come alive. So you don't have to stand in one place. You can play different characters by moving your body back and forth. Basically, when you're telling stories, you got to pull out those acting skills. And if you don't have acting skills, it's really beneficial. Go do an acting course. It will help in your presenting. Now, as a great example, I would say watch comedians, because comedians are masters at telling stories that will have you on the edge of your seat waiting for that punchline. And they can also wrap up their stories in a record amount of time while still giving you enough detail that you are really genuinely interested in what's going to happen. Remember to tie your story back into your main message. I'm telling you this because your story has to be relevant. You can't just tell a story and it has nothing to do with the main message that you're sharing. Now, it may not seem like it has something to do with the main message initially, but you need to find a theme that you can tie it back in to the main message that you want to share. When you can do that, your audience is going to be more intrigued. They're going to be wondering, first of all, why is he telling me this story? So they're curious. And then when you tie it back, they'll be like, oh yeah, why is he now connecting, or how is he connecting that story back? So you keep the interest of your listeners. Okay, I'm up to my last point number 10, and that's all about vulnerability. Being able to show your true self when you're out in front of an audience instead of feeling like you have to put on a front. And this is in particular when something goes wrong. Don't feel like you have to cover it up, but own it. Own it. One of the biggest fears that people have is making a mistake, or forgetting what they wanted to say, or looking foolish, in front of an audience. We are all human. And when we act human, the audience will connect with you on a deeper level. They're going to feel like you're a normal person, you're human. So don't be afraid to show vulnerability. Own your mistakes. Everybody makes them. And when something goes wrong during your talk, just address it. Apologize if you need to even apologize, and move on. Your audience is going to appreciate your honesty and your transparency. Just because you admitted that area, it makes you seem more like a human and more like someone that they can relate to. So, for example, if you drop your notes and your cards, or you stumble over a word, you just say, oops, my apologies, let me start that again. Or, I'm sorry guys, I'm a little bit nervous, just bear with me. Your audience is going to fully understand, because they're not the ones that want to be up there. You know, public speaking is the biggest fear for the majority of the population. So they'll be thinking, wow, good on you for getting up there. And when you show the vulnerability, then that makes a stronger connection. And if you can stay poised in these situations, it shows professionalism, that you can handle yourself under pressure. Just take a deep breath, recenter, and then continue confidently with your speech. Don't make a big deal if you fumble, and never use self-depreciating comments. Just own it and keep going. Now, with practice and with experience, you're going to be less prone to slip-ups, but they will inevitably happen at some point. So it's a great opportunity to build rapport with your audience and showcase your professionalism. When you can handle these little mistakes, it will make a lasting impression, and it's going to position you as being an authentic and a relatable speaker. All right, my friends, that's it. There you have it. 10 key public speaking skills that can help you to transform your career or your entrepreneurial success. When you master your voice, your body language, your structure, your clarity, it's going to pay off. Big time. Trust me on this. When you feel comfortable in your own skill and you're well prepared, that builds confidence. And don't forget the importance of breath work and vocal exercises to center yourself and warm yourself up before you go out and present. Stand tall, speak clearly, and go and knock the socks off your audience. With these tips, you're going to have the audience eating out of the palm of your hand in absolutely no time. And just imagine where your career could go once you have these public speaking superpowers mastered. Because remember, communication is everything. You can have all the skills in other areas, but if you can't communicate them, then you're going to miss out. So work on these skills, go practice. The possibilities are endless. Now go out there and let your inner rock star really, really shine. That's it for today's episode. Stay tuned for our next episodes. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do me that favor. Go subscribe. If you find this valuable, then leave us a comment because it really does help to get our podcast seen by more people. And that means we're reaching more people and we're helping more people. All right, my friend, I'll see you in the next episode. Congratulations, you've just finished another episode of Impact Through Voice. You're well on your way to making a positive impact in the world with your voice. If you want more, head on over to lisahugo.com/podcast for show notes and all the links that we mentioned in this episode. Until next time.